Okay, students, let's start the revision of Advanced Audit Assurance. Okay, before moving to the session, right, let's rectify your doubts, whatever the things that you have, whatever things you want to do, right? So just share that with me. So we'll discuss and the revision material I shared after the session into the WhatsApp group. And I want to put one more extra class to cover up some questions also, right? So first of all, what you need to know, like whatever the doubts that you have, because mostly you all are self-study students, right? So my plan is like to discuss how to prepare for exams. Right. Anything that you want to clarify? Do you have any doubts? Do you have any doubts?
I have a request.
Okay.
I have basically finished covering all the videos and technical articles from ACCA and stuff like that. And so from tomorrow, I'll be starting the revision kit. I want to know which questions to prioritize there, if you have any idea, so I can just focus just on a couple and then put all my energy towards that.
Fine, good.
Yeah.
If you take Advanced Audit and Assurance paper, 75% of your syllabus covered external audit. 75% of your syllabus covered external audit. Okay. And 25% of your syllabus covered other assignments. So today, I'll give you an overall idea, right? How this external audit portion can be tested in your exam, how other assignments can be tested in your exam. So total 100 marks, and you all have 3 questions. Question number 1 is for 50 marks. Question number 2 and question number 3, this is 25 marks each. And the pre-book is also released, right? So next week onwards, probably this week, I want to put one more class, right? So that we can discuss. Probably, I think if I put on Friday, would be good for you all, because students, most of them are sending a text saying like the time is the problem for them, right? So Friday, mostly Middle East is holiday, and also India also fine with Friday. So I'll put a session on Friday. I'll update you all, right? So the timings and everything. First of all, if I take external audit students, the syllabus covered, I can say external audit, we know that is reasonable assurance. Other assignments, some assignments are, it is limited assurance. And some assignments are like agreed upon procedures. And first of all, you should identify the differences between these things, right? So whatever the assurance assignments, which comes under limited assurance, the standards that applied is ISAE, International Standard on Assurance Engagement, and ISRE, International Standard on Review Engagement. At the same time, when I'm talking about this agreed upon procedures, the standard which provide guideline is ISRS, International Standards on Related Services, right? So there is a radical standard treatment difference is there, right? So you can't simply take like external audit is also we are using ISA, other assignments also we are using ISA. It is not like that, but the standard treatment, regulatory treatment is different. So reasonable assurance, yes, we all know ISA and ISQC. ISQC means quality control standard. ISA is international standards audit. So this is the basic difference between these 3 categories. But now students, if I take this 75% of external audit, that include a group perspective. and also entity perspective. So the syllabus covers entity perspective and group of perspective. Group means consolidated financial statements. You might study the ISA 600, ISA 602, and ISA 620, right? Where the group audit is a part of external audit here. So it's group perspective and entity perspective, external audit syllabus is developed. Okay. So you see, this is the overall idea about your syllabus. Now, I hope you understood how it works. This is what you studied, right? Now, if I take external audit portions, that external audit portions include certain predetermined questions. See, if you take AAA paper, questions are predetermined. Not 100%. Most of the questions are predetermined. I can say 70 to 80% questions are predetermined. But the cases are different. So every year you will get a different case, but the questions are to some extent predetermined. So we know the question, but we don't know the scenario. We know the question and we don't know what scenario. Based on that predetermined question, past paper analysis, question number 1, right? I'm talking about the application questions. So normally, if you take these questions, 2 types of questions we can take. One is theory. AAA paper theory questions are very less. AAA paper theory questions are very less. Why I'm telling like that? Because AAA and AA, the difference, even AA is also very less, right? AAA don't expect what type of question. AAA always why type of questions are examinable. Therefore, application questions are examinable. Application questions, I can say why type. Theory questions, I can say what type. Right. And students, when I'm talking about these theory questions, right, the composition wise, if I take, right, maybe 10% of your final paper can be tested theory questions. That is also from technical articles. I'm always telling students to read technical articles, ACCS technical articles. The main reason is to cover theory areas. So theory means it is not as it is, but it is tested from the technical articles and the publications. Now I am going to discuss application type of questions here first, right? How to handle application type of questions. There are few skills expected by the examiner. Students should have certain skills that is expected by the examiner when you handle application type of questions. When you handle application type of question. First skill is professional skepticism. Second one is professional judgment. So first one is professional skepticism, second one is professional judgment. So while you are practicing these questions, I'll give a list of questions now. When you are practicing, my recommendation is don't just read question, don't just read answer. It won't work because you should develop these 2 skills. You should develop these 2 skills. One is skepticism mindset. Examiner is giving some facts. Examiner is asking a question. In between, examiner is expecting your questioning mind. How critically you analyze that particular problem. When you are analyzing, when you are applying that questioning mind, the knowledge of ISA is important. Standard knowledge, what we studied, that standard knowledge is important. So students, Simply I'm telling, yes, questions are predetermined. Most of the questions are applications, and examiner is expecting professional skepticism and professional judgment when you are handling these cases. Apart from that, industry knowledge makes sense. That is also important. Let's say a case study is related to a hospital, a case study is related to health sector, case study is related to hospitality sector, case study is related to manufacturing sector. So any sectors, that sectoral knowledge that we call KOB. This is explained by ISA 315, understanding business entity. Understanding business entity, that is meant. So I'm always telling students, if you are working, yes, definitely you have some exposure over industries. So try to read more case studies to develop cross-industrial exposure. Cross-industrial exposure. Because if you are working in a manufacturing sector and the case study is also a manufacturing organization, you are really lucky. Why? You have more industry exposure. So industry knowledge plus the skills required here, both are matters when you are analyzing the case studies. So students score less marks because of these two skills. Now let's look at the questions. The first, there are 6-7 questions available. First one is ethical, professional, and quality control issues. Quality control issues. The first question is ethical, professional, quality control issues. They will give a scenario, and commonly they ask you to identify ethical, professional, quality control issues. I'll explain this later. In a while, I'll explain these ethical issues and all in detail. Now, that is the first question. Second question. Audit risk or risk of material mistake. Maybe this can be tested for 10 marks, 10 to 15 marks. Audit risk or risk of material mistakes. Third question, business risk. Third question is business risk. Third question is business risk. Normally earlier, old past paper, if 1 year audit risk means another year business risk. 1 year audit risk means another year business risk. But now, audit risk and business risk, same case study. Same case study is given, and examiner asks you to identify audit risk. Based on the same case study, examiner asks you to analyze the business risk. So how to differentiate this? What is audit risk and what is business risk? How to write answer? How to differentiate it? Everything I'll explain. Everything I'll explain. Okay. Fourth one, matters to be considered and audit evidence obtained. Or matters to be considered and audit procedures performed. So sometimes students might think, okay, sir, you are telling matters to be considered and audit evidence, matters to be considered and audit procedures. Fine. That question form is again repeatedly tested, right? From where we didn't study something like this in the theory. Don't worry. I'll tell you what topics should be covered, these things, especially audit evidence, substantive procedures. In audit and assurance skills level, there's a topic called test of controls, right? So to some extent planning, all these topics covered by this question. So if you know those topics, And if you know the industry knowledge and KOB, right, it's easy to write answer for this. Next one. Procedures. So procedures over standard issue. Procedures over assertion issue. You understood what I'm telling? Like, see, if you look at audit and assurance paper, substantive procedures, straightforward questions. But here also we are getting procedures question, but the procedures question are case study related questions. That case study include a misstatement. That misstatement is created in terms of a standard non-compliance or assertion based issues. So that type of question definitely tested in terms of what? Procedure. Okay. Next one. Implication to audit report. Every year you will get this question. Next one, critical evaluation of audit. Critical evaluation of audit report. Critical evaluation of audit. Okay, I'm talking about external audit. Huh? Still, I didn't touch other assignments. Other assignments, I'll tell you how to tackle, what questions will be possible, how to write answer, all those things we'll discuss in the next session. Today, my focus is external audit portion. Within external audit portion, all these we call what? Case study questions. All these are the verbs we call case study questions or application questions. Therefore, when you are preparing for your exams, you should understand these question verbs first. And you should know how to approach these questions. Right? You should know how to approach this question. And you should know how to write answers for these questions. You should know how to write answers for these questions. Along with that, you should develop your skills and industry knowledge. Is that clear, students? Therefore, here it's like the questions are predetermined, cases are different. You should familiarize yourself with these question formats. Is that clear? Understood? Please copy these question formats. Daily basis, at least if you do 2-3 questions on these formats. Don't practice only ethical professional control related questions first. Try to practice multiple questions, multiple areas. Otherwise, you might forget later. Right. First of all, copy this. Then I'll explain how to approach. Copy this. Copy this. Students, first I'll explain ethical professional quality control issues. Okay, so verbs matter when it comes to advanced audit and assurance. You should understand that verbs clearly. Every term, every verb have very detailed meaning, right? Rather than just studying theory, whatever you studied, right? It's very important to understand the meaning of those terminology, right? So first of all, let's say ethical threats versus ethical issues, or else I can say ethical risk. Both are not same. Both are not same. Sometimes the verb in your question, examiner might ask you to identify ethical threats or evaluate ethical threats. If they ask ethical threats, try self-interest threat, self-review threat, familiarity threat, advocacy threat, intimidation threat. That is what threat means. What is mean by ethical risk? What is mean by ethical risk? Ethical risk is more than ethical threat. Keep that in your mind. So when they are talking about ethical threats, scenario includes threats. When they are talking about ethical threats, the question verb is ethical threats. The scenario includes only threats. But when they are talking about ethical risk, when we are talking about ethical risk, the scenario includes number one, threats. Number two, non-compliance with code of ethics. Non-compliance with code of ethics. And non-compliance with ACCA. Non-compliance with code of ethics and non-compliance with ACCA. Try to understand one thing, students. What is ethics? Simply, I can say ethics is what is right or what is wrong. And that decision we have to take when our behavior moves beyond legality. All the professionals need to be ethical. Reason, professionals' behavior at some time goes beyond legality. Within legality, right is right, wrong is wrong. But when your behavior moves beyond legality, for example, let's say a doctor, he going to do a surgery at a hospital, right? So from home to hospital, he's driving a car. While he driving, he's a driver. His behavior comes within legality. There is a speed limit. He should have a valid driving license. He should follow the rules and regulations. So that is right is defined. So his behavior, the right is defined by law. Wrong is also defined by law. But once he reached the hospital, while he is doing the surgery, right, his behavior moves beyond legality. At that point only, he need to take ethical decision. What is right and what is wrong? What is right? Public interest is right. And what is wrong? Self-interest is wrong. Therefore, students, the verb ethical threat means the scenario perspective, if I am telling, auditor is ethical, someone is not ethical. The verb is ethical threat means auditor is ethical, someone else is not ethical. But when it comes to ethical issues or ethical risk, auditor also not ethical, someone else is also not ethical. Someone else not ethical means it is called threat. If auditor is not ethical means it is non-compliance with code of ethics. So if I'm not following code of ethics, if I'm not following code of ethics, I can say I'm not ethical. Whether we are ethical or not, how to assess by looking at the compliance of code of ethics. Therefore, your case study includes threats. Your case study includes non-compliance with code of ethics. Your case study includes non-compliance with ACCA. Your case study includes non-compliance with ACCA. Right? Now you all understood the verbs. By looking at the verbs, you can decide what case study is. If the question verb is threat, your case study include only threats. If the verb is ethical risk, your case study include threat and non-compliance of code of ethics, non-compliance of ACCA. Is this explanation understood? Is this explanation understood? Is that clear, students? Right, fine. Now concentrate. Now concentrate. See here. Let's say there is an audit firm. Let's say there is an audit firm. This audit firm is auditing a client. Let's say client name is X. Client name is X. Now, finance director. Now, finance director approach audit partner. Finance director is approaching audit partner. Finance director said audit fee based on PBT, 10% of PBT. Okay. What is the threat? What is the threat here? Finance director is telling you, okay, audit fee is based on 10% of PBT. My question, what is the threat here? See the verb. Verb is threat. Threat means yes. Partner here in this case, assume partner is right. Someone else is not right. He is disturbing the partner. That's why it is called threat. Who is someone else? That person we call finance director. My question, what threat here? How you going to write answer? What is the threat here? How we going to write answer? Exactly, self-interest threat. But students, when we are writing a threat, there is a way to write answer. Answer structure in audit paper, advanced audit paper, put a heading. I am putting a heading, contingency fee. I am putting a heading, contingency. Then I am writing, yes, contingency fee that will create self-interest threat. That will create self-interest threat. I am writing what threat it is. Then I am assessing the significance. Then I am assessing the significance. See, the finance director is influencing partner that audit fee is based on the performance of an entity. So, why the risk is significant? Why here the threat is significant? Because now both auditor and management try to manipulate financial statements in order to overstate profit, in order to maximize the audit fee. Therefore, this threat is significant. Therefore, this threat is significant. And also you should explain what is the safeguard in this case. Safeguards are explained by International Ethical Standard Board. So the safeguard, International Ethical Standard Board clearly said, no contingency fee is prohibited. Contingency fee is prohibited to financial related work. Whatever the assignments or work related to financial statements, it is prohibited. That is what the safeguard given by International Ethical Standard Board. All these 3 points should be right in one paragraph. All 3 points should be right in one paragraph. That's how you should write answer. Now you all understood if the verb is threat, how to write answer. Is that clear? Put a heading and write down and assess the safeguards. Don't forget to write the significance. Huh? When you are writing significance, you are applying professional judgment. Because normally when I read students' answer, their answers are like, okay, contingency fee, self-interest threat, it is prohibited. But if you read Kaplan's revision kit, if you read BPP revision kit, if you read Study Hub's answer, examiner follow these 3 steps when you are writing ethical threats. Now, let's take another story. Same audit firm, same X. Client is X. Now, Here, audit firm recently appoint or accept new audit client X, new audit client X. Due to time pressure, I'm teaching how you should write answers, because answer structure is matter. AAA, if you don't know how to write and what to write, there is a scope. If you know the scope, it's easy to write. If you don't know scope, then there is a problem. So I'm trying to teach that scope here. Then you can practice questions easily, right? So due to time pressure, firm didn't perform, or else I can say contact previous auditor. Contact previous auditor. Verb is ethical risk. Verb is ethical risk. Right. First example, threat. So I gave the answer structure. Now, second example, ethical risk. I'll give you 2 minutes. Type your answer. Type your answer. 2 minutes. Think and type your answer. Put a heading and write down the answer. This is verb is ethical risk. Verb is ethical risk, not ethical threat. Can you type your answer? Then I'll explain. Do it. See here, if you look at the story, audit firm is recently accepted new audit client. Client name is X. Due to time pressure, the firm is not contact previous auditor. If you look at here, no threat. Because who didn't contact previous auditor? Audit firm. So here the problem starts from auditor's side. Previous case example, the problems come from finance director. That's why I'm telling, if the verb is threat, someone else is not ethical and he try to influence us. If the verb is risk, someone else may not be ethical also, we may not be ethical. The problem is from our side or problem is from the other side. Both possible under ethical risk. Therefore, it is not a threat. It is not a threat. But try to understand one thing. Under professional appointment standard, under professional appointment, that is we call ISA 210 standards. This is comes under professional appointment. So ISA 210, the standard said, before you accept a new audit client, before you accept a new audit client, you should consider several factors. You should consider several factors. One of the factor is professional clearance. Right? There are a lot of factors we need to consider. Money laundering, integrity of management, resources, basis fee, reputation of the client, precondition. Final one is professional clearance. What is professional clearance? The previous auditor legitimately removed or resigned. Previous auditor legitimately removed or resigned. If they are not legitimately removed or resigned, then only problem. So every auditor, before they accept a new audit client, they should ensure the previous auditor is resigned or removed legitimate. The previous auditor is resigned or removed legitimate. But here we fail to comply with ISA 210. So when we are not complying with ISA 210, it is an ethical issue because in this case, non-compliance with ISA. What is the standard? 210. What is the standard? 210. Therefore, standard knowledge is also important if you are doing ethical questions. Now you all understood how to write answer. Let's put like this. Professional clearance heading. When I put professional clearance, the examiner will realize, okay, the student identified this as a non-compliance. The students identified this as a non-compliance. So when we put a heading like professional clearance, after that, I should explain the issue. What is the issue? Yes. They didn't contact the previous auditor. So when they didn't contact the previous auditor, that will create a problem and you should explain non-compliance. It is non-compliance with ISA 210. It's a non-compliance with ISA 210. Therefore, what is the safeguard here? Comply with ISA 210 only. Comply with ISA 210. So when I'm writing answers, students, I'm explaining, okay, fine. Entity due to time pressure, they didn't contact the previous audit. They didn't contact the previous auditor. As per ISA 210 standards, when we accept new audit client, we should contact the previous auditor. That is called professional clearance. If that work is not done, if you are not doing professional clearance, you should not accept the audit. Therefore, it's a non-compliance. So the auditor need to perform professional clearance. This is the answer for that. Now you all understood ethical risk and ethical threat. Now you all understood ethical risk and ethical threat. So ethical risk means non-compliance of standard is there, non-compliance of code of ethics is there, also threat is there. If you understood this, it's very comfortable to write the answer. It is very comfortable to write the answer. These are the two verbs possible in your exams. So if you understood these two verbs, you can write answers easily. You can write answers easily. So that is about the first part. That is about the first part. Is that clear? Is that clear? Now let's move to audit risk and risk of material misstatement. If the verb is audit risk, or if the verb is risk of material misstatement. Risk of material mistake. The verb is audit risk. Verb is risk of material mistake. See here, audit risk means the chances of auditor to provide inappropriate opinion. So AR, audit risk, is equals to inherent risk, control risk, detection risk. So if the audit risk, if the question verb is audit risk, if the question verb is audit risk, your scenario includes inherent risk and control risk and detection risk. But according to the past paper analysis, 70% to even 90% of your case study examples are what basis? Inherent risk only. So 90% of your case study is what risk? Inherent risk. 90% of your case study is what? Let's say first question, 9, a 50 marks question that include audit risk case study. 90% of the case study factors are covered inherent risk only. If I take inherent risk, students, that include two things. One is complexity in the nature. Number one is complexity in nature. Two is complexity in transaction. First one is complexity in nature. Second one is complexity in transaction. 99% of your case study is complexity in transactions. Complexity in transactions. Now concentrate. Transaction become complex because of two reasons. One is standard non-compliance. You are not following standard non-compliance. Transaction become more complex because of standard non-compliance or assertion issues. You understood what I'm telling? See here. Therefore, audit risk verb means it includes inherent risk, control risk, and detection risk, all three together. Which risk is prioritized within the scenario? Which risk take more significant role? That is inherent risk. Within inherent risk, I can say transaction is complex or nature is complex. Which situation? Normally, transaction complexity will be tested high. Nature complexity won't be tested, right? So transaction complexity, if you take, transaction become complex because of a standard issue. Let's say a financial statement is prepared by someone, but that someone don't have a proper standard knowledge. Therefore, the standard compliance was not there. That create a standard non-compliance. By that, the transaction become more complex. When transaction become more complex, the subject matter is subject to risk of material mistake. I am facing an audit risk. So, second thing is assertion issues, valuation problem, in cutoff problem, rights and obligation problem, completeness problem. All these are assertion problems. But try to understand in AAA paper, majority of your case study example is standard problem. Even in the standard problem, they can take confirmed misstatements. Some misstatements are confirmed. So confirmed misstatement. Some misstatements are possible. Possible misstatements. Some misstatements are confirmed misstatements. Some misstatements are possible misstatements. This is how your case study look like, right? So if I take confirmed misstatement, research cost capitalized. Scenario said, research cost capitalized. Then the misstatement is confirmed misstatement. Possible misstatement means management revalued assets. Management revalued assets. It is permitted. Initially, you should recognize that cost. Subsequently, you can recognize cost or revalued amount. So revalue is permitted. But there is a possible mistake. If you are not following standard treatment, then there is a possibility of mistakes. So students, when you are talking about audit risk case studies, 90% of your examples are transaction related, either standard or assertion. Standard based means confirmed or possible misstatements. This is how your question look like. This is how your question look like. Is that clear? How to write answer, I'll teach you in a while. Now I'm explaining how your case study look like. If the verb is audit risk, your case study look like this. If the verb is audit risk, your case study is look like this. Is that clear? Do you want to copy this? Because 15 to 20 marks confirm on this topic, audit risk. Now students, I'll come to risk of material misstatement side. If your verb is risk of material misstatement, see here, audit risk is equals to risk of material misstatement into detection risk. Risk of material misstatement into what risk? Detection risk. What it means? Risk of material misstatement come from client side. Detection risk is come from auditor's side. The verb is not audit risk. If the verb is audit risk, inherent control, detection, all three you can take. But if the verb in the question is risk of material misstatement, scenario include only inherent risk and control risk. Scenario include only inherent risk and control risk. There is no detection risk. There is no detection risk. The good thing here is, even the verb is audit risk or risk of material misstatement, examiner give more priority to what? Inherent risk. Here also, same, majority of your case studies, standard problem or assertion. Standard problem or assertion problem. Therefore, the misstatements can be a confirmed or possible misstatement, same way. But risk of material misstatement verb, if you get, don't write any detection risk because it is wrong, because the question is not audit risk. If the verb is audit risk, you can write anything, but try to understand in both verbs, who dominate the case study. Inherent risk is dominate the case study. Majority of AAA paper case study problems are either standard problem or either assertion problem. Either standard problem or either assertion problem. Copy this. Now students, now concentrate. So far, I explained the verbs. I explained what is ethical issue and what is ethical risk. Professional and quality control issues, I'll tell you later how to approach that. Second one is I explain the verb what is audit risk and explain the verb what is risk of material mistake. Either audit risk or risk of material misstatement, how to write answer. There is an answer structure. There is an answer structure. Let's discuss this answer structure because why I'm giving this answer structure to set a scope. It is not mandated. If you look at Kaplan answers, if you look at BPP answers, Study Hub answer, examiner cover these components within your answer. Because most of the AAA students, they don't know to what extent to write. Scope is problem. So some students might write less, some students write more irrelevant things. So when we give a scope, an answer structure, within that structure, you can think and write. Within that structure, you can think and write. So when you are getting an audit risk question, when you're getting a risk of material misstatement question, first thing what you should do is heading. Put a heading. Whatever mostly it's a transaction problem. Mostly it's a transaction problem. It can be restructuring provision. It can be a warranty provision. It can be an intangible asset. It can be a revaluation, or it can be a cutoff issue. It can be an existence issue. So you put a heading. Then explain the issue. Don't write paragraphs. Huh? I'm telling one answer include all these points, right? Explain issue. I told you mostly the issue is inherent risk. And most of the time it can be a possible misstatement or confirmed mistake. Most of the time it can be a possible misstatement or confirmed mistake. That is we call inherent risk. We should explain the issue. Third point, normally students, I told you 90% chance is there. The problem is a standard based problem. The problem is a standard based problem. Then explain that standard also. If it is not a standard based problem, you can't. For control risk, you can't write standard. For detection risk, you can't write standard. If risk of material misstatement means there is no detection risk. But you should explain if it is a standard problem, talk about standards. Then materiality. Definitely they will give materiality thresholds. ISA 320, you might study PBT 5% to 10%. Revenue 0.5% to 1%. Total asset 1% to 2%. So you should speak about materiality in your answer. Then impact to financial state. Impact to financial state. How this going to affect financial state? Impact to financial state. These are the 5 steps. Some students might write another one also, procedures. In that situation, auditor, what procedure he should perform. In audit and assurance paper skills level, you might study response, risk and the response. So response is a procedure. This comes under the planning stage. We call that as a planning procedure, or else we call that as preliminary procedure, right? So you can write that also, but don't forget one thing. When you are writing all these things into one paragraph, let's say redundancy provision. There is a problem given, redundancy provision. So put a heading redundancy provision, explain the issue, explain the standard, materiality, impact to financial statement and procedure. Try to understand one thing. Don't write too much things, you may run out of time. I gave the scope. Within this scope, you should write things precisely. Most of the students make a mistake. They are really good in SBR. When they are trying to explain the standard, they try to write a lot. Don't do that. right? Quantity and quality should be managed properly. A proper mix should be there in terms of quantity and in terms of the quality. Right. Now you all understood answer structure. For audit risk and risk of material misstatement, is this clear? Now you know how to write answer. When you write in this way, students, I gave the scope. When you write in this way, easily you can score more marks. Easily you can score more marks, full marks. Because students are, they're telling, okay, some students after exam, they are coming and tells the paper was easy, very easy, I finished. But you are not writing sufficient answers. When it comes to results, 44, 45, 49. Therefore, first of all, try to understand to what extent you should write, then apply the judgment. Is that clear? Right. Copy this. This is the answer structure for audit risk and risk of material mistake. Audit risk and risk of material mistake. Audit risk and risk of material mistake. Okay. So just, I want to check the way of your writing. Okay. Because we don't have much time. So I want to check way of your writing. So I'll give a small example. I'll give a small example and I want to know how you are writing that, right? So I'll give you a small case study, right? Let's take year end is 31st December 2022. Profit before taxes 3 million. Profit before taxes 3 million. And all the standards, IAS 1 to IAS 41, IFRS 1 to IFRS 17, all the standards you should be thorough. Because without having a standard knowledge, you can't identify issue. Because most of the issues are inherent risk, transaction related problems, it is not possible to identify, right? So profit before tax is 3 million. Year end is 31st December 2022, right? During October 2022, fire accident. Fire accident. Inventory cost damaged. Inventory cost, I can say 1 million damaged. Scrap value 200,000. Scrap value 200,000. Insurance claim submitted for 800,000. Insurance claim is submitted for 800,000. Finance director recognize this claim as income. Finance director recognize this claim as income. This is what given. This is what given. Okay. It's a very simplified story. Yeah? Very simplified story. Right? And try to understand one audit risk, you are getting 2 marks. For all these 6 points you are writing, right? How many marks that you are getting? Only 2 marks. So don't try to expand a bit. Try to write precise. Okay. Try to write audit risk. Question is audit risk. At least one audit risk write down if it is possible. Based on this particular format. I gave a format, put a heading and write down the answer. I'll tell you what is the mistake and then I'll give you the answer. Then you can compare this. Don't forget to practice this part. Daily basis, you should practice one audit risk. 20 marks is confirmed. That is 20% of your paper. Right. I'll give you 5 minutes time. Do this. Please type your answer. Please type your answer. Sorry. So there are two problems here. Perfect. Abhinav, correct. See here, the first problem is, in this case, valuation of inventory. See my heading? First problem is valuation of inventory. Valuation is an assertion. So there is an assertion problem plus standard problem. See, IS2 standard said inventory should be recognized cost or NRV, whichever is lower. Right. But try to understand here, net realizable value is a estimated value. That is not a conclusive value. Who do that estimation? Management do that estimation. I have a doubt. Let's say cost is 1 million. 800,000 is insurance claim. And the balance is 200,000. To avoid the losses, sometime management might decide the difference as NRV, scrap value. So I have a doubt over the valuation of net realizable value, the valuation of the scrap value, how management decide or reach the scrap value or net realizable value is 200,000. That is my problem. That is my problem. Now I'm arguing in this way. 200,000 may be immaterial or material, just calculate it. That's not a problem. But there is a valuation issue. There is a valuation issue. The other problem is, if that, let's say that impact is, let's say that particular inventory is valued improperly, your inventory may be overstated. Undervalued, your inventory may be understated. Because obviously you're going to recognize that NRV. Cost is 1 million. You can't recognize that cost now. You should recognize that NRV. If the NRV is having a valuation problem, still there is an issue in terms of financials. Profits may be over understated. Inventory may be over understated because of what? Valuation of net realizable value. So you should discuss with management and how they determine net realizable value or scrap value as 200,000. What basis that they work, how they reach this 200,000, that you should discuss. That you should discuss. And also you should see, I'm writing one more point. Also you should see whether that particular inventory is sold or not. Whether that particular inventory is sold or not. If it is sold, scrap value is correct. If it is remain unsold, then you should identify inventory days. You should identify inventory days. Average inventory day is 30 days. This incident happened in October. Now we are starting audit after the year end. So last 4-5 months, this is remain unsold means it is overvalued. It is overvalued. That's why they are unable to sell. That's why they are unable to sell. So that I should see. So all these things we can write within this. Is my explanation understood? Is my explanation understood? Is that clear? Right. Now I'll come to the second perspectives. Now I'll come to the second perspective. Give me 1 minute. Now the second perspective is insurance claim. If I take insurance claim, IAS 37 standard said insurance claim as contingent asset. So contingent asset, if it is virtually certain, 100% confirmed, then only you can recognize it as an income. The double entry is receivable debit, income credit. But insurance claim is submitted. That is what given in the question. So insurance claim is submitted and it is confirmed by insurance company, problem solved. Insurance is submitted but not yet confirmed. Then you overstate assets. You overstate profits. Because if it is virtually certain, you can recognize. If it is probable, disclosure is required. If it is possible, ignore. That is a treatment, standard treatment. So, if they didn't confirm, insurance company is not confirmed, but if you recognize it as an income, it is a confirmed mistake. It is a confirmed mistake. So, the safeguard or the response is what? What is the response? The response is simple. That is also you can include here. The response is discuss with management whether insurance company is confirmed this claim or not. Or else you can see the insurance company's confirmations also to ensure whether it is received or not. Okay. Understood how to write answer now? Is that clear? Sir, how many marks could I get for this? Fine, you will get 1.5, no problem out of 2. Right. That's not a problem. But I observe one thing. 90% of you, almost all the students, right? When they are writing answers, yes, you all are prioritizing the standards, right? As you said, IAS 2, yes. But here, the problem is valuation. Valuation is a strong point than cost or NRV. Are you agreeing with my statement? Therefore, practice more questions to improve your judgments. Improve your judgments. Okay, fine. So, we discussed second questions also. We discussed second question also. Now, let's see business risk, another question format. Another question format, business risk. Okay, I'll take that. Business risk. Okay, how business risk is differ from audit risk? How business risk is differ from audit risk? Anyone? Is both are same or different? How business risk is change or how business risk is differ from audit risk? How business risk is differ from audit risk? Sorry. Okay, sorry. Most of the students, they write business risk and audit risk interchangeably. First of all, we need to understand what is audit risk and what is business risk. See, business risk approach only we used normally in audit firms. If you are working in audit firms, EY, KPMG and all, when we are doing risk assessment, our risk assessment is a detailed risk assessment, right? That I can say like, it's a broader way of risk assessing, right? What is the broader way? First, you should understand the entity. So entity-based risk is business risk. Because if any risk affect the entity, there is an impact to financial statement. Then come to subject matter. Then come to subject matter. Subject matter is your financial statement. That is affect with audit risk. That's why business risk is organization perspective. It's a broader lens. If you are assessing risk with organization perspective, it is a broader lens. Too detailed. If you are looking at audit risk, narrow lens. If you are looking at audit risk, narrow lens. Nowadays, big four companies, first they start with business risk and they move towards audit risk. That is a correct approach. We can effectively reduce detection risk. That's the best risk approach, but time consuming and you should need more resources. Only focusing on audit risk is a narrow lens. You are looking at only the impact to financial statement. So students, when you do a business risk, after that if you do an audit risk, there are certain matters which is not captured by financial statements identified by auditor. If you are looking at narrow lens, only financial statement, whatever only affect financial statements only you are taking. But when you are doing a business risk, yes, it's a broader approach. You can able to capture certain risk which is affecting entity, but not affect financial statements. Not captured by financial statements. That is what we put under a paragraph called in audit report, other matter paragraph. There's a paragraph called other matter paragraph we record there. So, audit risk answers, I gave you answer structure. For audit risk answers, I gave you answer structure, impact to financial statement. Audit risk answer structure is impact to financial statement. But business risk, you can't do that. Business risk, what you should do is simple. Business risk. Is it clear business risk and audit risk? What I explained, understood? That comparison understood? Don't think business risk is not, we are not focusing on business risk. Auditors are focusing on audit risk. No, auditors should focus on business risk. Right. When I teach advanced audit assurance, when I teach audit and assurance, I become more masters in audit. You understood what I'm telling? So that is broader perspective. See here. Business risk. Answer structure. First, you should assess risk. Later, earlier in this SBL, Strategic Business Leader paper, you might study risk assessment. Identifying risk, assessing risk, analyzing risk, response to risk. So response to risk is STARA framework. Risk transfer, risk acceptance, risk reduction, risk avoidance. So when we are looking at this, business risk answer structure, first of all, we should identify the risk. Financial statement and organization, two different things. No? So when it comes to organization, how we can identify audit, business risk? Is there any method to identify business risk? Is there any method to identify business risk? There is a method to identify business risk. That is what we call environment analysis. That is what called environmental analysis. First of all, when you take a scenario, when you take looking at a scenario, apply this assessment, environmental assessment. How to assess? SWOT analysis you can do. Pestle analysis you can do. First of all, you should assess the risk. Why? You need to identify risk. And then explain impact to organization. Explain impact to organization. Don't explain in terms of financial statement. How to write impact to organization? Impact to organization is in terms of cash, in terms of profit, in terms of customers. Organization is based on these pillars. So you can take these pillars to explain the impact to organization. So business risk is very easy to write answer. Business risk is very easy to write answer. You know why? Because you can use your common sense. Because you can use your common sense. But audit risk is not like that. Audit risk is not like that. Is that clear? Therefore, students, always when you are getting a business risk, simple, again, put a heading. You can keep any heading, suitable heading, and do an assessment and try to identify the impact and write it down. This is how you should approach business risk. But the problem is, before 2015-16 year, before 2015 or 2016, if one past paper, if examiner asks audit risk, the other examiner will ask business risk. But now, after 2016 past papers, same scenario. Part 1 is audit risk. Part 2 is business risk. So, when you are reading a case study, it's your duty to understand financial perspective, financial statement lens, organization perspective lens. In broader lens and narrow lens, both perspective you should read that case. That is the most difficult thing. Right. So when you are reading the same case study line, think financial statement perspective when you are writing audit risk. Think organization perspective when you are writing business risk. That risk is there. So is it clear? Answer structure understood? If they give a case study and they ask only business risk, no problem. If they ask only audit risk, that is also no problem. But if they give same case study and ask audit risk and business risk together, part 1 audit risk, part 2 business risk, then only problems start. Then only problems start. You all understood what I said? Is this clear? Right. Now, students, I hope you all copied this. Now I'll give you a small case. That case is common for audit risk and business risk. Part 1 is audit risk. Part 2 is business risk. You should apply your judgment and you should structure your answer. Okay? Right. Right. See, example. Company X breach terms and condition of local authority. This will significantly affect their going concern due to non-compliance and negative publicity. Fine. Just we'll stop with that one because no need to explain in detail. But in your examiner will give more facts, more supporting facts. Only the fact I gave is breach, going concern problem. That create a negative publicity. Right? Those are the two things. Part 1, audit risk. Part 2, business risk. Type your answer. One case, 2 questions. Quickly type your answers. Think and type, then we'll discuss. Okay, see here. Correct. Good. Amina, perfect. See here. First of all, audit risk. Basis of preparation get affected. Financial statement basis of preparation get affected. There is an assertion called presentation. So presentation get affected. There is a standard called IAS 1. IAS 1 speaks about going concern. When there is a material uncertainty, sufficient disclosure need to be made. When the entity is not going concern, financial statements need to prepare breakup basis. So there is a non-compliance of IAS 1 requirement also. You can argue all these ways. And financial statement misstated if you are not doing this. And you should perform procedures over going concern. You can't just agree the statement, right? They are telling it's a significant breach. You should study about this. For that, you should perform procedure. So procedures are clearly explained by ISA 570 going concern. That you should do, going concern procedure. And professional skepticism matter. When it comes to business risk, trying again going concern. Negative publicity because of this. Right. It will affect economic objectives. What is mean by economic objectives? Profit. It will affect social objectives. Pestle, social capital. Environmental or social capital. Simple. Because people do not want to work in this company because of the negative reputation. Because the company do not give that reputation to the employees. By that, overall objective of the company is significantly impaired. Overall objective of the company is significantly impaired. See the lens. One is financial statement perspective, other one is organization perspective. Right? So, Amina, the answer structure is fine. Good. Right. Now, students. Up to this point, examinable questions. Clear? Understood? Can you able to practice questions? Take the past papers, all the past papers, practice all these questions, right? Probably within this week, I'll put another class because I think we missed 2 classes, right? Probably within this week, I'll put one more extra class and I complete the balance all the questions. Then I'll go for past papers. And also in the TRG group, I'll share latest can Amina or Imran, can you put a text in that TRG group or the revision group? There are a lot of groups, so I couldn't find out, right? So just put a text and I'll share the latest Kaplan mock paper. That mock paper I'm going to discuss after completing this and the other assignment examinable questions, right? So please do that paper within 3 hours time and 15 minutes, right? Then we'll discuss that, okay? So with that point, I'll stop for the day, right? So next class within this week, I'll schedule and I'll update you, okay? Thank you very much.